hello and welcome back to a new video. If you're new here, hi, I'm Carol and this channel talk mostly about books. And for the past 2 years, I created this tradition where I do a reading vlog, reading the most popular books of the year according to Goodreads. And in today's reading vlog, we are going to continue the tradition. We are going to read some of the most popular books of the year according to Goodreads, because as of the time I'm filming this intro, the list literally just came out. I just logged into Goodreads and there was like a list of the most read books of the year according to Goodreads. But in today's reading vlog, we are going to be picking a book from this list, and I'm not going to lie, there are so many books that I own or that I have already on Kindle Unlimited that I could read from this list, and so many books that I own that are on the list of most read books on Goodreads, including some of the oldest books on my TBR. So this vlog is almost essentially, let's be honest, mood reading vlog. I can read whatever I want. But we're going to start by reading a book that has been sitting on my TBR, I think, for a year, and I have been really wanting to read this book for around a year. It sounds like a book that I will really enjoy. It's sci-fi, and we're going to be reading The Ministry of Time by, I think, Kaliane Bradley is how you pronounce the name of this author. But I believe this is a, not dual timeline, but it is a time travel, more literary sci-fi, and I think there is something related to the government. There might be a romance. This sounds like a book I will really enjoy, and I have been waiting to read for quite some time. So let's start reading The Ministry of Time. I will come back when I have any other updates for you. I'm only 17% through reading The Ministry of Time, and so far I'm really enjoying this book. It's just so fun. It's just the kind of book that I like. I like the writing style, I like the characters, and Commander Gore, who is the guy from the 1800s that they bring to modern day England. If you adjust him, some little tweaks make him a little bit more modern, he would be the ideal book boyfriend. He would be so many people's book boyfriend because he's calm, he treats her well, and he's funny. He just said something here which I know he's asking something, but for me I can't help but laugh when he asked our main character, the woman that is receiving him on modern day in England. He says, "Some charming young women out on the heath address me quite boisterously. What is a DILF?" How to explain to this man from the 1800s what is a DILF? It'd be interesting to see where this book goes, but so far I'm only 17% reading this book, and I'm loving it. One thing I definitely wasn't expecting about The Ministry of Time is just how funny I'm finding this book to be so far, and I'm only 19% reading this book, but I keep laughing. And I don't know if I should be laughing, because some of these things are not necessarily so openly funny, but I just find them funny. And I find especially the Commander Gore, who is the guy that they bring from the 1800s, just so funny. So let's go back to reading. I'll probably continue laughing. Hopefully I will continue laughing until the end of this book, just because of the characters and because laughing in a good way, because I'm just really enjoying this book. Hello, so I finished reading The Ministry of Time last night, and the beginning of the book I really enjoyed that. I think you could see it in the previous clip where I was talking about laughing so hard, and also really like Commander Gore. Like, if you make a little tweaks, because he's a Victorian man. He's a man that was born, that grew up, and he was from the Victorian era, and he was also in the Navy. But if you make little tweaks, he would be the perfect book boyfriend, and I still stand by that. We shouldn't be thirsting or enjoying and liking a Victorian male character with Victorian values as much as I am, but really like this character. But besides the Commander Gore, besides our time-traveling romantic interest, the first half of Ministry of Time I really enjoyed. The second half of Ministry of Time, it kind of lost me, and it was one of those moments where I was like, is it me? Is the book but honestly, I just didn't love the pacing of the second half of the book. There is a romance again between our main character. Our female main character, she is never named, but at least I don't remember her being named. But there is this romance partial plot which was really interesting. It was really nice, like the romance plot. There was the sci-fi elements of the time traveling. That part was really interesting. But the second half, I didn't love it. I didn't like the pacing. I didn't love the ending of the book, especially the pacing at the end of the book. It was weird. It wasn't the best. In general, I didn't really love the ending. It was also kind of a little bit confusing, and I know this is technically sci-fi, and sometimes sci-fi can be kind of confusing on purpose, and I think part of the confusing aspects of the Minister of Time, of the ending of the Minister of Time, was intentional. It still felt a little bit confusing considering what this book is. Overall, if you're looking on an overall perspective, I really enjoyed The Minister of Time. I think this was a very strong debut novel. If this author publishes another book, I would like to read it if the plot is something that sounds interesting to me. I would like to read it because I do think it's a well-written book. Overall, I do think The Minister of Time is a book that would be very hyper-specific. To be a 5-star, to be for a hyper-specific group of people, because this book does. Again, the ending is a little bit confusing. This is also kind of more literary sci-fi, so if you like literary sci-fi, you might enjoy this book. And also this book does deal with some heavy topics, talks a lot about grief. Our female main character, her mother was an immigrant, and there's a lot of trauma, generational trauma, that comes from the side of her mother because of what her mother went through, and also because of racism, and also just her upbringing in general. There is aspects of, it talks about imperialism. So I think this book, to be a 5-star, it would be for a very hyper-specific group of people, also considering the writing style. I really like the writing style, but I do understand that probably it's a very hyper-specific book to be a 5-star. One thing that I wasn't expecting with this book, but I'm really glad, even though this will haunt me for a while, but our female main character, and narrator, her mother is from Cambodia, and her family suffered with the Cambodian genocide. I had no idea about what the Cambodian genocide is. I didn't really know much about Cambodian history. I did go on a deep dive on Cambodian history and on the Cambodian deep dive, and some of the things I read and that I saw will probably help me for a little bit. But overall, I really enjoyed The Minister of Time. I ended up giving it 4 stars. Move on to the second book we are going to be reading for this reading vlog. This is a book that has been on my list of books I want to read one day in my life for quite some time. It has actually been on this list since before this book went viral and became so hyped up. So the fact that it is now so viral and hyped up, it only made me want to read this book a little bit more. And I started reading Dungeon Crawler Cow by Matt Dinniman. This is, I would argue, a sci-fi fantasy. It's kind of like a blend of the two, where we follow Carl, this 27-year-old man who he's outside trying to rescue his ex-girlfriend's fuzzy, fancy cat, when suddenly every single building and car and everything that was kind of like flattened because Earth is being seized by the aliens. Everyone that was inside in this world, everyone that was inside a building or a car are now dead, and the only survivors are people that were outside, and now they have the option of walking through this gate and joining this apparently very weird, cruel, evil game show, reality show, to entertain the aliens, maybe win. If you win the reality show, apparently you kind of become responsible for something like that. I don't know, it sounded weird, interesting. Also, I heard it's very silly, goofy, and I read a total of 1 chapter of Dungeon Crawler Cow. I know it's a lot of pages, but I read a total of 1 chapter last night, and I was very tired actually when I started reading this book. I actually fell asleep exactly after finishing reading the first chapter of the book. And the thing about this first chapter of Dungeon Crawler Cow that I read is that I'm not sure if I'm loving it. Again, it's one chapter, a lot of things can change, my feelings can change. But I read one chapter and I was like, am I enjoying this? Again, one chapter. So I'm going to continue reading this book and see if my opinion about it changes, because I also don't know if it is a me thing, if it is because right now I read quite a bit of books with comedic undertones or that were very comedic in a row, and maybe for that reason I'm not enjoying Dungeon Crawler Cow so much. I don't know if it is because I started reading this book so late and I was so tired that I just didn't enjoy it. I'm also not sure if this book just isn't vibing with me. I did hear mixed reviews about Dungeon Crawler Cow. I hear a lot of people talking about how great this book is, how fun this book is at the same time. I also hear a lot of people talking about how they don't like the way some of the characters are described in this book, even though this book, there are moments that apparently are supposed to be grotesque. There are apparently some descriptions about some characters that a lot of people don't like. I also heard people saying that the second half of the book kind of lost them. They kind of became tired after the second half of the book because the structure of the novel, it's kind of like a game, not game. How do you say it in English? Kind of like a video game structure, so it felt kind of repetitive. But so far, again, I read a total of the one chapter, a lot of pages. So I don't have an opinion. I don't relate to neither the praises or the criticism when I saw about this book, but also I read the first chapter and I was like, I'm not really feeling it. So I'm going to continue reading Dungeon Crawler Cow. If I continue feeling like I'm not feeling this book, I might soften a bit, because life is too short to read books that are not working for you, especially if you are reading as a hobby like I'm doing. But if I start enjoying the book, I will definitely continue. I'm still very curious about it, but if my feelings about Dungeon Crawler Cow continue to be the same as my feelings at the first chapter, then I might DNF it. But we are going to go back. Let's go back to reading Dungeon Crawler Cow in this very gloomy of gloomiest days. I think I might be in the same position as I was in the previous clip, but I have an update for you because I DNF'd Dungeon Crawler Cow. I got to 42% of reading Dungeon Crawler Cow, and honestly I just couldn't do it. I saw how many pages were left, how many hours Kindle was predicting it would take me to finish this book, and I was like, I can't do it. I just can't do it. I completely understand why this book is so popular and why so many people love it. I don't understand why it has so many 5 stars on Goodreads, because I was looking on Goodreads to put on my not finished shelf, and so many 5 stars. I was surprised. So I don't understand the 5 stars, but I do understand why this book is so popular, because it's such a unique premise. It's well written. I like the writing style. The characters are interesting. Just the plot is so interesting and unique. And I do understand why people will love the book, but it didn't work for me. Just the way the narrative is structured, because this is very much inspired by the RPG games, which is not something I play at all. So because it was inspired by RPG games, for me it wasn't like the format of the story. It's very repetitive in its nature, but it just doesn't talk with me. Also, the humor didn't talk with me. I didn't particularly love the humor. I really liked Princess Donut, the best character in this book in my opinion. But overall, when I looked at how many pages were left in this book, I just couldn't do it, because I really wasn't enjoying myself, and life is too short to continue reading books you're not enjoying and you're just reading it for fun or for as a hobby. So I decided to DNF Dungeon Crawler Cow because I fear this book is not for me, unfortunately, even though I had very high expectations for it. But I'm not going to leave you hanging. I'm going to be finishing 3 books in this vlog, even if it takes me months to finish filming this vlog. But I started reading Buckeye by Buckeye. I forgot the name of the author. I actually should have DNF Dungeon Crawler Call sooner because I'm read a few pages of Buckeye. I'm not sure if I'm going to enjoy it or not, but I'm already enjoying it so much more just because of the plot structure, the writing. Not that the Dungeon Crawler Call is a bad book. It's just not a book for me. So I started reading Buckeye, which I believe is a what is happening? What is happening with my brain? It's a multi-generational family tale, maybe in Ohio, the United States, relating to the Second World War with magic realism. I'm not really sure what this book's about. So we are going to be reading Buckeye, and I will come back when I have any updates for you. Hi, so I finally finished reading Buckeye by Patrick Ryan, so let's talk about it because I do have some feelings. So essentially Buckeye is this family saga, a historical family saga where we follow two couples and the aftermath of an affair by one of these people. And overall, I do think Buckeye is a great book. I do understand the hype surrounding Buckeye. It is quite a sad book, which personally isn't the kind of book that I'm interested in reading at the moment in my life. I'm just not in a phase in my life where I want to read sad books, and Buckeye is quite a sad book. But overall, I do understand the hype surrounding Buckeye. It is a really great book. I like the writing, I like the storytelling, but I did have some problems reading this book. I think this book is very slow paced. At least for me, it felt like it was very slow paced. It would have moments where I felt like, oh, interesting, the plot's moving forward, and then there would be large sections where I would be like, oh my god, well, okay, I understand. But it feels like feels like it's going nowhere, and it was so frustrating because I was reading this book which felt so long. It felt way longer than it actually was, than it actually is. And just I was reading it, and then it felt like nothing was happening, and it was very slow paced. And then you get to a section where the pace would pick up a little bit, and I would feel more interested, I would enjoy reading this book a little bit more than I was before, but then we go back to that slow pace. Overall, this is a story that it feels very much like, oh, and this happened, and then we followed them for a little bit, and then this happened, and then let's follow these characters for a little bit, and then this happened, and it's very, this is kind of the style of the way the story is told. It's very, this happened. There is a lot of telling and not as much showing. The characters, I like that the characters are not black and white, they are in varying shades of gray. But overall, I do enjoy the book, I understand the hype, I really like Buckeye from a more technical standpoint, a more technical perspective. I do think Buckeye is a great book. There is a quote on the cover of the book, or at least from the version that I have it on my Kindle, but on the cover of the version that I have, there is a quote by Ann Patchett. And if you like Ann Patchett, I do recommend reading Buckeye because it does feel like a book that Ann Patchett fans would enjoy. I did like the one Ann Patchett book that I read before, but my main problem with Buckeye was mainly the pacing. It definitely didn't help that, again, I was reading the ebook, I was reading on my Kindle, so I couldn't pick up the book and see how much pages I had left and check like how many pages do I have left. I couldn't do this. I only had the number at the bottom of the screen telling me how far along I was and showing me that the plot was going forward. But because I wasn't reading the physical book, I couldn't see that how much I was going forward in the book. So because also the pace was so slow, I just really struggled. There were moments where I started thinking, oh, maybe I should DNF this. But then I would remember I'm actually really enjoying this book. Just have some patience, Carol, please have some patience, and don't DNF a book just because the pacing is slow. But personally, I don't like slow paces unless it is in a slow burn Mariana Zapata books. I'm not the biggest fan of slow pacing. Also, this book is very sad. It talks a lot about war and grief And I'm not in a moment in my life where I'm really enjoying reading sad books or books about grief. I'm not in the mood to read sad books. Also, not going to lie, the end of the book, it felt kind of, how to say it in English, kind of lackluster, kind of disappointing. I was expecting more from the end of this book. Not necessarily that it was a bad ending. I don't think it is a bad ending at all. I just personally didn't enjoy it. And that's kind of my feelings about Buckeye. I do think it's a great book and I completely understand the hype, but there were just these little elements that they personally don't work for me as a reader. So I ended up giving 3.75 stars to Buckeye because, again, great book, but I didn't enjoy it as much. I didn't enjoy it enough to give it 4 stars, but also I enjoyed it enough that 3.5 stars is way too low for this book for me. So yes, that's it for Buckeye. Let's move on to another book which I hope I will enjoy more, and I hope I will read way faster because, not going to lie, it took me way too long to finish reading Buckeye again. There was a moment there where I was feeling like, oh, this book is never ending. This book is so long. But let's move on to the next book. In this vlog, we are going to read something very different. This is one of the oldest books. Not necessarily the oldest book, but one of the oldest books on my TBR. I think it has been on my TBR. I don't think it has been on my TBR. I'm sure it has been on my TBR for almost 3 years because I remember exactly when I got it. I got it in the same weekend where I went to the Taylor Swift Eras Tour concert in Rio de Janeiro. So it has been 3 years, but we are reading You and Me on Vacation by Emily Henry. I do have quite a few Emily Henrys that I still haven't read, but I believe I hear that this might be the most rom-com-y book Emily Henry ever wrote, and I'm in the mood for a good, light, fluffy rom-com, which this book might be. I'm in the mood for reading Emily Henry. It has been a while, and this book has been so long on my TBR, and I'm just in the mood to read a good rom-com. I really want to watch the movie, but I want to read the book first. And was, according to Goodreads, one of their most read books of the year. Let's read You and Me on Vacation, or People We Meet on Vacation, because I have the British edition and the names, the titles, they change a little bit between UK and US editions. US, Australia, Canada, the English-speaking countries. But we are going to be reading People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. I will come back whenever I have any updates about reading this book. Hello, so I finished reading You and Me on Vacation, or People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. I actually finished reading a few days ago, so I could sit down and think a little bit more about what I felt when it comes to this book. In case you don't know, you aren't one of the 1.7 million people that have already read this book, because turns out People We Meet on Vacation is currently, at least as of the time I'm filming this clip, it is Emily Henry's most popular book at the moment, her most read book. But People We Meet on Vacation is a friends to lovers kind of second chance romance where we follow Poppy and Alex. They met in college, and ever since they became friends, every summer they go on a summer trip, just the two of them, where they just go on a summer trip and have a lot of fun during summer trips. But 2 years ago something happened and Alex and Poppy stopped talking. Now 2 years later, Poppy, she's a travel journalist. She works for this travel magazine, and she's feeling kind of in a rut when it comes to her job and her career. She feels kind of unmotivated, so she decides to reach out to Alex and invite him to go on one final trip together, one final summer trip. And this is a romance novel, so as the cover of the UK edition of this book would say, two best friends, 10 summer trips, their last chance to fall in love. And we follow this character's journey throughout this trip and we figure out what happened in the past trips, how they met, how they became friends, what were their previous summer trips and what happened between them and how are they going to fix their relationship. And this is technically a slow burn. They only get together at the last pages, at the end of the book. And when it comes to Emily Henry books, because I have read, this is my 4th Emily Henry book, I believe. And out of the 4 that I read, I wouldn't say this is my favorite. My favorite is still Happy Place, but also not my least favorite. Maybe controversial opinion, my least favorite so far is Peach Read, but I read it many years ago, so I might need to reread Peach Read. But People We Meet on Vacation was just a very fun read. It wasn't something, again, not my favorite Emily Henry, not my favorite romance ever. There is nothing that I'm like, wow, this is amazing. I do like Emily Henry's writing style, and overall I did really enjoy this book, and I think this is just, in my opinion, a really fun romance novel. A really fun, fast romance novel that I had a lot of fun reading it, and that's essentially all my thoughts. I don't have many thoughts about this book. So I ended up giving People We Meet on Vacation 4 stars. I'm excited to go and now watch the movie because I already read the book, so now I can go watch the movie without fearing I'm going to be spoiled for the book or ruin the book for me. People We Meet on Vacation, People We Meet on Vacation, I gave it 4 stars. What Emily Henry book do you think I should read next? I have Funny Story on my TBR. I'm also thinking about reading Book Lovers and also Peach Read. I saw Great Big Beautiful Life, the Portuguese translation is on Kindle Unlimited, where I live right now. Also, we do have the original Emily Henry books, the books before she started writing adult romances. So, what did you think about People We Meet on Vacation, and which Emily Henry do you think I should read next? And, well, that's it for this video. If you like this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel so you can get more bookish videos on your subscription box. And if you have any book recommendations, any really popular 2026 books that you think I should read next, please let me know in the comment section, and I hope to see you with another video very, very soon. Bye!